even Myanmar will go to State House and kneel before Museveni. Ultimately, Besigye will be forgiven because Museveni has accessed a prerogative. Mr. Yoweri Museveni, son of Kabuta, you are such a brilliant man. You really have played your card so well. Or for that matter, the position is so stupid, they've just fallen into your trap without saying it. And then they attack me.
It's no mistake that Dr. Kizza Besigyes, our greatest freedom fighter in Uganda, has been in the tabloids for the past 4 months. Dr. Colonel Kizza Besigyes is a retired colonel in the army, and we now see that he was abducted from Kenya and brought to Uganda to serve and be tried in the Ugandan court-martial. Dr. Kizza Besigyes was tried for illegal possession of firearms, and he has now been under siege or under trial for the past 4 months. We now find that moving fast forward on 31st of January 2025, Dr. Kizza Besigyes was saved by the landmark decision that was stated by the Supreme Court, where it is said that civilians should not be tried in the court-martial, and therefore civilians should stop being tried in the court-martial. He was then transferred to the civilian court system, and therefore he is now serving his sentence of treason and also misprision of treason. Therefore, we find that with all of this moving forward, we are going to host one of the biggest journalists in Ugandan history, who is called Mr. Andrew Mwenda. Andrew Mwenda is one of the biggest veteran journalists in Uganda and in Africa in general, who has written so many publications, written so many books, and has analyzed things, even reaching to one of the highest shows in American history, which is called the TED Talks. So therefore, in this edition of Legal News Daily, we're going to host Andrew Mwenda, where he's going to discuss for us everything concerning why Dr. Kizza Besigyes did this, what he was charged for in terms of legal possession of firearms. Most importantly, the audio evidence that came out, is it really right? Is it AI generated? He's going to break all of that down for us. But most importantly, he's going to discuss what the impact is of Dr. Kizza Besigyes' case in terms of the Ugandan political and historical scene. Well, without further ado, let's have Mr. Andrew Mwenda. Let's have him break all of this down for us moving forward.
It is not strategically wise for Besigye to reduce his struggle with Museveni to a legal battle in court, because in doing that he's playing on Museveni's terrain. If I was Besigye, I would play the cards differently. One, Besigye in his heart, including his wife Win, knows he went to Nairobi, attended a meeting where he was lured by some people working for military intelligence here. In that meeting, he discussed two things. One, an armed insurrection using parts of the UPDF to overthrow the government violently. Two, as part of that strategy of overthrowing the government, to secure drones to shoot down Museveni's helicopter and kill the president. Now, in a political struggle, you may need to kill the Museveni. You will consider him within the power structure of Uganda to be the center of gravity. It's possible that if you shot him, you could precipitate a military uprising and change the political situation. This is the political struggle. It cannot be reduced to these legal tactics and legal gymnastics in courts. So the second thing is, if you follow Besigye over the last so many years, he has articulated a vision that Uganda is being misruled or misgoverned or badly governed by a brutal tyrant who disrespects the rule of law, disregards due process, and is willing to run roughshod over people's lives, people's rights. That is your core argument. He's destroying the country. If you have a brutal tyrant destroying the country, it makes it politically necessary to remove him by all means, including an armed struggle. So if you went to Nairobi and were caught, you should honor such an issue. And two, if he takes you to military court-martial, he's shooting himself in the foot, because he's confirming that he's a tyrant who is running roughshod over people's rights. He's disregarding the rule of law. He's disrespecting due process. If you take him to court, and even the Supreme Court rules that you are being tried in a wrong court, first you suffer a strategic defeat. Your argument that the tyrant collapses.
Yes, because now it means
that one, you went to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has ruled that you as a civilian cannot be tried in a military court-martial where I have taken you. Now they have brought you to a civilian court. In that process, you have already given legitimacy to the civilian court as being fair and just. Now, if you go there and you are convicted, what is your retreat? Nothing.
There is no retreat.
And let me tell you this: Besigye supporters, some of them are very hypocritical and dishonest. Others are very naive and ignorant. So it's a combination of hypocrisy and naivety. The hypocrites know for sure that the audios government of Uganda has are genuine. The naive ones don't want to believe that because they're so tied to Angel Besigye. They cannot see the situation he's in, and I don't think he made a mistake from his perspective. If you feel a country is ruled by a tyrant, if I feel the same way, I'll go and take up arms to fight the tyrant. I don't believe so, that's why I'm not taking arms. But let me tell you this. If any leader of the opposition, and when I'm challenging you, the embassies here, the American embassy, the British embassy, the French embassy, the EU, there's so many nations here, the Belgians, the Italians. When these audios came out, you think the diplomats in Uganda here sat? Of course they received the audios. What would they do? Exactly. What would the Americans do? They would send them to FBI laboratory in Washington, D.C. The British would send them to MI6 laboratory in Cornwall. The French would send it to Mont Blanc, French military intelligence laboratory. And I can tell you, can talk to the diplomats in these embassies. They sent them there. Their verdict returned to the embassies here was, one, there is no editing, and they're not AI generated, they're genuine. And what has been the response of the diplomatic community, Western diplomatic community in Uganda? You cannot get a politician of Besigye's stature, tried by the military court martial, and the embassies of the Western world do not raise a hue and cry. Why are the Americans, the British, and others who vised Bobi Wine for just being in under house arrest and not fighting for Besigye, who is in the military court martial? They were not fighting for him. Ask me. So you just need to be either dishonest or naive not to see that Besigye was caught red-handed, planning to assassinate Museveni and mount an insurrection. So now let me come to Besigye, and this is where my disagreement with him comes from. And I felt this argument was lost in my shouting match with Samuel on the TV. If I was in Besigye's shoes, I would become Fidel Castro, I would become Nelson Mandela, I would become Adolf Hitler. When they were caught, they owned up. I'm going to quote for you Mandela. Mandela, when he started Umukoto Wesizwe, he went and trained in Algeria. When he came back, they launched a sabotage at a place called Rivonia. So they blew up power stations, blew up houses, blew up cars to launch an armed struggle against the apartheid system. Mandela was then arrested, not on the scene, and charged with a crime called Rivonia sabotage, which is treason. The overall theme was Rivonia sabotage, the case was treason. Mandela said, I do not deny that I planned sabotage. I did not plan it in a spirit of recklessness, nor because I had any love of violence. I planned it after sober and calm assessment of the political situation that had arisen after many years of tyranny, exploitation, and oppression of my people by the whites. This struggle is my life, and I can never abandon this struggle under all circumstances. I'll continue to struggle for the freedom of the oppressed blacks in South Africa until the end of my days. Throughout my lifetime, I have fought against white domination and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a free and democratic South Africa in which all people live together in harmony with equal rights and equal opportunities. It is an ideal for which I'm prepared to live for, work for, and achieve. And if needs be, it's an ideal for which I'm prepared to die. You understand? Man, Besigye is a coward. If you believe this country is being seriously mismanaged, you have a brutal tyrant running roughshod over people's rights, disrespecting the rule of law, disregarding due process, violating every rule in the book. Then you go to the road and attend a meeting to have him hanged, rather to have him killed and the government overthrown. Stick to it, own up to it, and don't try to go to any court because the tyrant does not have independent courts. So they dictate military court martial the best thing. The CDF, who is the son of the president, had already, who is in charge of the army, and therefore in charge of the court martial, had already sentenced you to death anyway. This was a very good strategic opportunity for Besigye. But I think him and his lawyers were unable to see it. Rather than argue the substantive issues of this case, which are political, that this is a political struggle. And in the political struggle, the question of an armed struggle is a legitimate component of that struggle. If you're convinced about things that he says about Museveni, he himself says actually elections, Besigye has consistently argued that you cannot change government in Uganda through elections because Museveni rigs them. Besigye says he has run for elections, he has won for elections, and he has been cheated. How therefore do you get any form of democracy, justice, fairness, whatever you call it, when elections cannot work, popular selection in the street cannot work? Of course you go to armed struggle. So I felt that he's a coward who cannot stand by his own convictions. Because I don't think that the political assassination and armed insurrection, technically, is a wrong thing. Even Museveni followed the same path. So if Obote had arrested Museveni in Luweero, what would Museveni have said? So Castro, when he said history will absolve me, and he made a speech. You should go online and read it. The speech is called
Castro.
Yes. Adolf Hitler, he said the honor of Germany is at stake. I don't mind losing my life fighting for the honor of Germany. And I feel when he was tried in 1924-25 after the Munich beer hall putsch, which failed. So Besigye, for me, I find him incapable of raising up such an occasion and say, I am involved in a political struggle, and therefore these legal battles, are you supposed to be tried in the Supreme Court? In a court martial. Why do you expect a tyrant to take you to any court anyway? In any case, even if you took a civilian court, does it make a difference because the courts are controlled by the tyrant? Anyway, Besigye has handed Museveni a series of victories. I don't know why Museveni planned from the very beginning. We take to a court martial, you argue. We go to Supreme Court because the Supreme Court had failed to listen to this case for 500 years. All of a sudden they call it. Yes, or Kabziguruka. Then they call it when Besigye is arrested. The court Museveni registers, or for that matter, feigns opposition to this. But maybe that's what he wanted. It's possible he called the Chief Justice and said, give it to him, what he wants, they give it to you. Then you go to the court, they charge you with treason, and they have had evidence on you, and they can bring experts to prove that that is you. And then you are convicted of treason. Let me tell you what is going to happen. When Besigye is convicted of treason, you are a lawyer. Isn't it a mandatory death sentence if you are convicted of treason?
Yes.
So he's sentenced to death. The people of Ugunji, the people of Mbarara and Hoima, where he comes from, will come to petition Museveni to exercise his prerogative of mercy. His wife will be animal, will go to State House and before Museveni. Ultimately, Besigye will be forgiven because Museveni has exercised a prerogative of mercy.
His prerogative.
Mr. Yoweri Museveni, son of Kabuta, you are such a brilliant man. You really have played your card so well. Or for that matter, the position was so stupid, they've just fallen into your trap without saying it. And then they attack me as the enemy. I can't understand. They are holding a rope, hanging themselves, and claiming it is Mwenda. I don't get it.
And when you look at Semuju's argument, it wasn't. Semuju and Lupabu.
Semuju doesn't have an argument. You see, Semuju didn't have an argument. That's why he was accusing me of flying UPD for a cop. What on earth has that got to do
with Besigye's issue?
What arrangement does he know? Maybe I was doing a public statement for the UPDF. Maybe they had given me a license to do comedy. Maybe I was acting a movie. There are so many reasons why a civilian can wear UPDF uniform and be in a chopper. Unless you know the details. And the concerned party is UPDF. The CDF did not complain. The CLF did not complain.
Police did complain.
The commander-in-chief did complain. Somehow, why is he mourning more than the bereaved? Why is Semuju, not a member of UPDF, mourning more than the bereaved? But anyway, leaving Semuju aside, I want to come to Lukwago. I think that Lukwago buries Besigye's case in legalities. When this Besigye would have avoided, if I was Besigye, I would have turned the court martial into a political restaurant to make my political statements there and make my case before history. And I would even say I am willing to be handled by this court because I believe this government must be removed violently because it's dangerous to Uganda. And I own to that. I would not agree with him. I would not have agreed with him. But I would have respected his premise. Anyone who tells me that they convinced that there is a tyrannical, brutal government running roughshod over people's rights, right? Disrespecting the rule of law, disregarding the process, doing all these bad things, murdering, abducting. If that's what you think the government of Museveni is, then there is no reason to go to courts because courts cannot deliver justice. So the only thing is the political struggle. And they own the means. If you have declared the aims is to remove the government, own up to the means of a military insurrection, political assassination. And the fact that he cannot bring himself to own up to the means to achieve his aims shows me that either I have this belief that as a soldier, Besigye is a very poor politician, and as a politician, he's an equally poor soldier because he lacks the basic understanding of strategy. And Museveni is very good at strategy. You see, strategy is to have an overall view, an eagle-eyed view of the struggle in which you are from its beginning to its end. Tactics are how do you get from point A to point B, C until you reach the end. Those are tactics. But if your entire struggle is on tactics, you miss the goal. Now let me look at the big picture. The big picture is you have a government in power which you are convinced is tyrannical, destroying the country. And the country is in need of salvation, redemption, liberation, emancipation from tyranny. Maybe even armed struggle therefore becomes justified. In which case, you cannot begin denying, only deny it if you do not participating in it. But if you're organizing it, own it. Don't deny it. Then, because then you have a clear view of what you want. Because at the end of the day, why does Besigye want? Why does Besigye want to get justice, to be treated fair by a tyranny? If you have a tyrant, why do you want the tyrant to? You don't expect a tyrant. If I was contesting against Idi Amin or Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin, I would have no holds barred. You get it?
You would go all out.
All out. And he says it in those audios. We are willing to go all the way. Those are his convictions.
I had the audios.
Yes.
When I speaking to a British gentleman.
So me, as Andrew Mwenda, I really believe that the Museveni runs a much more civilized government. Without a doubt, it has its weaknesses. Sometimes unfairly it abducts people. Sometimes suppresses opposition movements. Sometimes acts dirty. But by and large, there is the rule of law and there is respect for due process. Yes, me as a journalist fighting for expansion of freedom of expression, I have gone to court, won battles, and the government has respected a lot of the victories that we have registered. So today, if they charge you with anything that is being challenged in the constitutional court, you cannot be prosecuted. You're protected. Laws like publication of false news, sedition, and others have been struck out. So I feel there is enough space in Uganda to mount civic struggles, to expand the democratic space. Besigye may not become president today, but the grandson of maybe Terry Kahuma may become president through a normal democratic process. Democracy is not an event that is achieved in one big swoop.
It's a process.
It's a process, and that process does not follow, is not linear, meaning it does not follow a continuous improving curve. It moves zigzag, a few 3 steps forward, 2 steps backward, like that. And over generations, you keep affecting democracy. You look at the Americans, they declared the independence in 1776.
It's 75.
1776, and they said all men are born equal are created by a creator equal. So they created a constitution in 1789 saying exactly the same thing. But that constitution, women could not vote. Poor white Americans could not vote.
Blacks.
Blacks were enslaved. Native Americans, whom we call Red Indians, were being genocided.
So it was the European Americans.
It took almost 90 years, 88 years, until 88 years, until 1864, when there is the Emancipation Proclamation, when slavery is ended. It had taken about 50 years in 1932, when they allowed universal male adult franchise. It is in 1920 that they allowed women to vote. It is in 1965 that black people were allowed to vote. You 1965, when Uganda had universal adult suffrage, America passed the Voting Rights Act in 1965. So you can imagine after 200 years, 180 years of struggle for the Americans to reach where Uganda is today. So when the person keeps saying this is a tyrant who must move violent, I disagree. I have fundamental disagreements with Museveni, and I think he's mismanaging this country. But because I believe that Museveni at heart also has strong liberal traditions and convictions, you can disagree with Museveni. When I was young, yes, but also Museveni will call you and disagree. When I was young, journalists of read articles criticizing him, and he would call me back and say, no, here you are wrong. As a matter of fact, this is factually wrong, or this is logically inconsistent. I was in my 20s. The whole president of the country calling me.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yes, he didn't call me sometimes to set house, give me tea and explain to me his position and say, yeah, you are wrong, Mwenda. But for you guys who are young, in the 90s, Museveni used to call into radio talk shows. He would be listening to radio, and he calls in also to participate in debate. He would read articles in newspapers. So this man, Museveni and I have called many times. A couple of times I said to him, to China, I've come out and come to see him and we have still talked. So you cannot convince me that this is a tyrant. We should go to the bush to fight and remove violently. Whatever weaknesses in the Museveni system, I can tell you, Museveni as an individual and NRM as an organization and UPDF as a military organization, they have very strong liberal foundations. And we need to build on them. We don't need another round of violence. My disagreement with Besigye is you went with Museveni to the bush because an election was stolen. Or so you claim, and I don't think Obote stole the election anyway. And I've written many articles defending UPC and Milton Obote on this matter. Okay. You came back. Uganda has had so many violent changes of government. If violent change was the road to democracy, why are we still trying to organize another round of violence? So that's where me and Besigye disagree. But where I have respected him is not the disagreement, is him to honor his audios and say, yes, I was planning to kill this man, to to violently overthrow this government because I'm convinced this government is bad for Uganda and the only solution we have is armed struggle. Let him honor. And his friends and the allies, those who are smart enough, those who are in the know, they can just go and get those audios. They can give them to any ordinary person who has software and technical knowledge. You can find out two things. Is it edited? Meaning that you can pick person's voices from different conversations, add words to them to make them a narrative that is false. Are they edited? The second thing, are they AI generated? On those two occasions, I can tell you every embassy here, and I have feedback from every embassy, Western embassy in Kampala. They are authentic. But for me, I first sent them to a friend of mine at Microsoft and another friend at Apple. Within one day, they returned the verdict.
And they say they're not AI generated.
They are not AI generated. And then listen to a young friend of mine. He used to work in technical division of issue. Now he no longer works there. He took them, analyzed them, and returned the same verdict. So I had already 3 verdicts saying this is authentic. Ugandan, 2 American, Microsoft at Apple. Then, of course, ghosting with the diplomats in Kampala, of course, I also told you.
That we ran this and they are okay.
And that's why we are quiet. We are quiet because this is a very serious matter. This is matter having.
It's very serious.
Yes. So and Winnie, who says I am lying about her husband,
I saw it on
first of all, I should tell you, Besigye and Winnie have been my very close friends. In the 90s and early 2000s, whenever I would be going to Fort Portal, the road to Fort Portal was still gravel.
Still bad.
So I would drive through Barara, I would sleep at the house, sleep in a bedroom in their bed.
Are you serious?
Yes, that's how close we are.
With them in it?
No, not. Of course, they were living in Kampala, they had a house in Barara. Winnie's house, because she was an MP, she had a house in Barara there. And they had given me permission whenever I went there. The person keeping the house would open and I would sleep in the bedroom. I would sleep in the bedroom. So these are.
They are your close friends.
In August, in September actually, I visited Besigye. And I spent the whole day at his house from 10 a.m.
Last year?
Yes, just before he was arrested. I had written an article about Kitezi complaining that there is a lot of mismanagement in Uganda and Kitezi just in the tip of an iceberg. And he called me, I went to see him, we had lunch together, we talked. And I had always disagreed with him on his desire for armed struggle. And I have also disagreed with him on his pursuit of power, because Besigye thinks that his pursuit of power is a pursuit of democracy. It's not. And that's why Besigye's actual problem to begin. That he has never separated his desire to remove himself from power from the desire to improve Uganda. Yes, because Besigye wants to be president, and he thinks he's the only one. He wants himself removed, and he thinks he's the only one who can do that. Who has the stamina, the principles, the determination, the fortitude, the resilience to do it.
And
others get.
How about Bobby Wine?
But in the audio, he talks about Bobby Wine. He says Bobby Wine is weak. He's not willing to go there, so you will not.
Actually, I was surprised. I read it and then
although I agree with him,
that he's not ready to go the extra mile.
Yes.
When had they said?
I agree with Besigye's assessment of Bobby Wine, but Besigye despises people like that, not understanding that the way you build a democracy is through negotiation and compromise. These laws, people may accuse them of having been compromised by Museveni, but I believe people like Mao, Jim Ken and others, other politicians, Betty Kamya, all these other politicians who have decided to work with Museveni, I find them much more democratic minded. You see, any government that comes to power without a negotiation and without compromise, which is what Besigye is asking for, will rule without negotiation and without compromise. Any government that comes to power through negotiation and compromise will tend to govern by negotiation and compromise and tactics. Tactics are these legal battles. But what is the biggest strategic goal? I think that Museveni is winning. Museveni has shown, I'm not a tyrant. I can respect court decisions. I will honor court decisions. Now Besigye has been taken exactly where he said he will get justice.
But
that high court, if it convicts him, what will be his retreat now?
But I kind of disagree with that. Why? Because when the Supreme Court ruled that civilians should not be tried in the court martial, he then called an NRM caucus, asked Oboa to go and introduce a bill to re-include trying civilians in the court martial under the UPDF Act. So as a result of that, so many civilians are now worried that, okay, that means that the Supreme Court decision is not respected. So people are actually worried about that. Are they going to reintroduce this?
The lawyer, if the Supreme Court said trying a civilian court martial is unconstitutional, Museveni does not need the UPDF Act, we need to amend the Constitution to entrench the Constitution that the military courts can try civilians. You get it? But whatever you say, Museveni is going to Parliament. In a democracy, you pass laws through Parliament. If he follows all due process, what wrong has he done? If the people of Uganda, through the elected representatives, vote that the law be amended or the Constitution be amended and do 2/3, how do you challenge that? Legally. You're a lawyer.
You only challenge that through Article 91 of the Constitution, which says that any court ruling should not be challenged.
Exactly. So Museveni is making a mistake because I think the Supreme Court or the Constitutional Court ruled. You saw in a political system like ours, you have separation of powers between the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. The judiciary cannot, the legislature cannot make a law to overturn a decision of the Supreme Court. So I'm sure that law will be challenged in the Supreme Court and will be struck out. So, but what Museveni has shown that there is rule of law in Uganda, that he can respect court orders because Museveni had the power. What the Supreme Court of Uganda does not have an army or a police force. As Museveni said, like Andrew Jackson, he was an American president, the Supreme Court ruled against him. Said, okay, let the Supreme Court enforce its will, and he sent American troops into the current state of Florida, which they had stopped him from doing. The Supreme Court was important to do anything. So a president can defy it. It has happened in American history. Can defy the Supreme Court decision.
I didn't know that.
Read Andrew Jackson. He defied the Supreme Court decision. You see, the American colonists, whites, were spreading across the east coast of America violently by exterminating native populations. Wherever they went, the native populations resisted. They were killed, massacred, genocided, exterminated. Then the land was taken by white people who would bring slaves to work the land, blacks. But in this particular part of America, today's state of Florida, the community there did not resist violently. They took the case to the courts of America, up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that these people these white colonists cannot take over that area.
Are you serious?
Yes. Then Andrew Jackson was the president. He said, okay, let the Supreme Court enforce its decision. He sent in the American army and militia. They occupied the place and started distributing land to whites and killed those natives. And then what would the Supreme Court do? So assuming Museveni not to bring the message to the High Court, what will the Supreme Court do? Just be his power will be important. So, but he respected the decision of the Supreme Court. Besigye went on hunger strike to force his trial to move from the court martial to the High Court. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Because when they ruled that he cannot be joined in the military court martial, he said he will not eat until I'm charged in the High Court. It means he trusts the High Court. If the High Court convicts him, what will he say?
He will have nothing else to say.
So who is the winner there?
Museveni.
Do you think the High Court is independent from Museveni? So I think he was playing to Museveni's hands. So Museveni played a very good card. As a master strategist, I get my hand, I remove and say, yes, son of Kaguta, you're brilliant. Besigye, son of Kifefe, you are a tactician. Have you ever played a game of chess? So a good chess player, I will send you a video of a guy who plays and the other guy remains with one chip. One chip. The guy he was setting him up. He was taking and thinking he was succeeding. The guy had remained with one thing on the board. He ate all his hand, and it's a very good expression of strategy versus tactics. The other one was a tactician. He was looking at the win per stone on the board. The game is called Go, G-Go. Go. What he did not understand is the other guy was setting him up. Because when he started, he removed every single stone of his and he defeated him. It's a game of Go. So it's strategy versus tactics. You are going to win so many small little things, not seeing that somebody is trapping you everywhere. You're moving your pawns on the chessboard. The other guy is luring you, and they're luring you to that meeting in Nairobi. He said those things. Then he was kidnapped from there. And I will tell you why they could not arrest him in Nairobi, because the government here must have followed with some authorities in Kenya. They realized if they arrest him in Kenya, they have to use Kenyan security. What do they charge him with? You are planning to overthrow government of Uganda. What Kenyan law have you violated?
You haven't violated any.
You are planning to kill Museveni. What Kenyan law have you violated? So if you arrest him in Kenya, the Kenyan courts will release him, and Besigye knowing what you have because they arrested him in the middle of the meeting. You get it? So, the government of Kenya, once they release him, the man saying to come here. And the legal battles in Kenya will be so ferocious, he will leave Kenya and go elsewhere, he will not be extradited. Okay. So kidnap him and bring him to Uganda. Because legally, it does not matter how the state brings you to court. Whether they kidnapped you, whether, as long as you appear from court, before court, and you have legitimate crimes, you will be tried under them. And there's a president in Uganda, there is a man called Besigye, he was reported missing in the 60s, so he was kidnapped from Kenya in the 80s because he was working with Museveni against this government.
They kidnapped him?
Yes, and the court said no, it doesn't matter how you're brought before court. The same applies to evidence, unless its evidence is extracted through torture, or I come and break your house without a warrant and I get the evidence. Courts reject things like that. But for you,
technicalities.
Yes. So, but how would Besigye say they cannot accept these audios as evidence in court? You are a lawyer, tell me. This show is called...
It's primary evidence.
How can he refuse it? Some lawyers were telling me it's not admissible. What?
It is.
It is admissible.
It is.
So if it presented, and if they can get experts to demonstrate technically that is genuine, yes, then he will be convicted. If he's convicted, he will go to court of appeal, from the court of appeal will go to the court, and they will all convict him once he has gone through that due process, and it will take a very long time. Minerals being wasted, but ultimately,
he will face
Museveni will be the one to access the property. Besigye handed Museveni on a silver platter an opportunity to exercise
at the palm of his hand.
Yes, a mercy on him. Yet, if I was Besigye saying this is a tyrant, why should I go to beg before a tyrant? I would have said, I'm ready to kill the tyrant and I'm ready to overthrow his government. You are free to go and hang me. That's why I'm saying it's an ideal for which I'm prepared to die. Besigye should have said the same thing. I can't believe that he missed the opportunity to turn the court martial. International. Read Castro spoke for 4 hours in court. 4 hours he gave a speech. He was speaking with history. Mandela was speaking with history. This man, but these people are driven by ideals. I think that this is driven by power. So, when you're driven by power, you must have it. You must grab it, or else then you don't get the aim. If you're driven by ideals, let me tell you, the risk of sounding vain. I am driven by ideals. I tell you, trust me, I am willing to die for my beliefs. If I disagree with Museveni, I don't mind him killing me for it. I will drive my car to sit a square, constitutional square, and be shot in defense of it. And then I realize that when you're driven by ideals, your calculations become different. And that's why I now see, when I look backward, I see a person like Castro or Mandela or even Adolf Hitler when he was tried. They were really convinced about their ideals because they were willing to own them and die for them. I don't mind today, me and Mwenda being killed by the state for something I so dearly believe in. I don't mind. That's why I am a free human being. That's why I can go and criticize Museveni, the next day criticize the opposition. You see the opposition use blackmail. They go, Museveni has bravery, attack and insult and abuse. They think they can get anything. They don't understand that my disagreements with them on issues of values. I don't mind this. I run on the streets without security. I drive myself in my car and I'm announcing it today. These opposition hooligans, they are free to attack me and kill me for my beliefs because I don't mind dying today for my beliefs. You get it? So I think at Besigye's reluctance to face the consequences of his convictions is because he's driven by power rather than by a cause. If his cause was to liberate Uganda, he would be like Lumumba. Have you read Lumumba's letter to his wife?
Patrice Lumumba.
Patrice Lumumba. His last letter was not out of the prison before he was killed. Go read it. When you enter my office here, there is a whole quotation from it.
Grandpa, what do you think is the impact, or what do you think is the finality of all of this, the battle between Besigye and the state? What do you think would...
I have told you. Besigye will be directly into Museveni's hands. Besigye will be tried in High Court. He will be convicted and sentenced to death. He will appeal. You remember a death sentence has to be approved by the Supreme Court for the next order. He will go to the Court of Appeal. They will convict him because the evidence is overwhelming. I do not know how any court cannot. So go to the Supreme Court, they will confirm the sentence. Then there will be court competitions from different parts of Uganda. For Besigye, Museveni, be kind, be magnanimous, be this. You know how Museveni plays his game. Then, of course, finally win the way for Besigye herself will go and plead before Museveni. Then a committee for reprobative mercy will be set up to recommend that Museveni be forgiven. It will arrive at Museveni's desk. Museveni will finally exercise his prerogative of mercy and forgive Besigye. The ultimate humiliation of a man who was fighting him, he's the one who gives him back his life.
Begging for mercy.
Yes. Brilliant. You're ready? You are such a great man, and I want to end this show on that note. You are such a great strategist. If you plan to this, I'll give you a car when you come next to Kanyandai. You have not been in Kanyandai now for 5 years. Come, I'll give you a car.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining me and Grandpa on the show. Grandpa, any last words to the viewers?
Keep hope alive.
Okay, thank you everyone for listening to Legal News Daily. Until next time, I'll see you. Bye-bye.